How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be taking a look at Amityville 3D. This came out in 1983 and was directed by Richard Fleischer. The movie stars Tony Roberts, Tess Harper, Robert Joy, and Candy Clark, but also keep an eye out for a Before They Were Famous appearance from Meg Ryan. Always cool to see who pops up in these random horror movies, right? Now, all that being said, Amityville 3 is just okay. And that's kinda sad because the first two Amityville movies were really working. Amityville 1 is an absolute classic. Amityville 2 might just be the most underrated horror movie of all time. And then Amityville 3 is a fairly generic 80s haunted house movie. Now, don't get me wrong, it's an 80s haunted house movie. It still has some fun to be had, especially if you like those 3D gimmicks. I mean, right in the opening credits, we're panning past the Amityville house, and someone off-screen is whacking the camera with sticks, just to remind us it's in 3D and the credits are doing that big pop-in thing. And when you do the dialogue scenes, you can kind of forget it's 3D for a while, but then someone will stick something in the camera, you know, like a ghost hunter will wave his sensor as close to the camera as possible, and then some of the ghosts are these weird Compton glowing effects, and they're gonna float right at the camera. Something pops out and scares you, and boy does it pop out and scare you. It's goofy, it's gimmicky, it's a cheesy 3D movie, because it's part 3 in 3D. And if that's what you want, that's there. But I mean, outside of that, the classic Amityville scares just seem to be here again. Like, oh, there's the flies and the creepy well and the coldness and the windows that look like eyes. I mean, it works, but we don't really get anything super new with this, and the characters are really underdeveloped. We do heat up to an ending with some fun moments, but honestly, the inciting incident that really triggers the ending of this movie happens way too late in the film, and it really should have been something that happened way earlier, and that could have given this movie a theme and a point. But basically instead, this movie feels like, hey, let's hang out in the Amityville house, but it's in 3D. And again, I don't want to sound like I'm dishing on this too hard. As I said, it's a perfectly fine, okay 80s haunted house movie. But that's all it is okay, and when we come off of two absolute classic films, that's a bit of a disappointment. And again, don't get me wrong, Amityville 4 will be a much bigger step down, and I can see why all the Amityville 3 packs cut it off at this one and don't include 4. But yeah, we're going from something legitimately scary to something that's a bit of 80s popcorn flair. Can't complain too much, but what we had was better. But in order to analyze it, let's talk a little bit about the plot. I'm not going to do any major spoilers, but I do want to break down and analyze a few things and talk about what works and what doesn't. So from this point on, let's take a bit of a deeper dive. We open up with a cool seance sequence and a green ghost literally again coming at the camera because it's 3D, but the tables do turn when it's revealed that the couple at this seance didn't actually lose their kid. It's a reporter and his photographer, and they're busting a fake seance. And maybe this is a response to the claims that the Amityville haunting may have been fake, and they're like, hey, if we acknowledge it, then we can move on, right? Or maybe it's a commentary on the Amityville house getting so overhyped in real life. I don't know, but we're busting these fake ghost hunters. And the reporter and the photographer talks to the real estate agent who says, I knew nothing about their scheme, and I've been trying to unload this house for a while, but no one wants it. And that's when the reporter realizes the situation that he's in. I need a house because I'm going through a divorce, and this is a bigger, nicer house than I should be able to afford. But no one wants it because it's haunted, but I'm a skeptic and don't believe in ghosts anyway. So he goes from doing a story on the house to actually wanting to purchase the house. And from there, Amityville shenanigans ensue. We get the photographer who's going to see some strange distortions in the photos, and she's going to be saying, I think this is actually haunted, I'm going to warn you, and I'm going to do that trope of doing all the research and figuring things out and finding creepy stuff in my photographs. But of course he's going to deny this all along the way, and then you get his ex-wife and daughter. The daughter's friend is Meg Ryan's character, by the way. She's kind of the fun, in-your-face, spunky best friend. But anyway, the wife doesn't like the daughter spending time in the Amityville house, but the daughter thinks it's kind of cool and wants to hang out with her dad. And maybe spooky shenanigans will happen to her and her friends as well. And I will say, this is where you get the problem with the characters in this movie. The guy's going through a divorce, but why? What happened? We don't get a big, long, dramatic story saying, this is why my marriage crumbled, this is the drama there. Most of the stuff with the ex-wife is just, I don't want my daughter hanging out in the Amityville house. And the daughter doesn't really seem too terribly upset that her parents are getting a divorce either. We could have milked this for a lot of drama, but we really didn't. And yeah, I mean, like, comparing these characters to the characters of Part 2, anyone remember the what's happening to us scene in Part 2? Boy, that got emotional and intense. And I wish this movie got there as well, but no, kind of flat. And plus, having him be a skeptic and not really reacting to this, I mean, I don't want to tear on the actor too much because it is probably the script's fault, but he can't really give this thing too much charisma or really anything too interesting. The main character in this is kind of boring, and I wish he had something more to do. Again, the actor's fine, he just needed something to do. And again, as I hinted at earlier, the problem with this movie is that it starts way too late. The inciting incident for the third act really should have happened like at the beginning of Act 1, because that's when the movie hits off and that's where the real drama happens. There's this scene that takes place on a boat, simultaneously running with the mother seeing something in the house. And sadly, the way the scene's done is kind of clunky and awkward. I get what they were going for, and it is a cool, like, true haunting type of story, but we're cut off from a lot of the emotion, and a lot of the plot points aren't, like, super in-your-face and dramatic as they could have been because how they chose to tell it. And in turn, there's this big moment that I wish had more weight. But what happens at the end of this scene would have made a cool driving force for the whole movie. The mom and dad have much more to do and much more to talk about, and there is more dramatic flair after this point in the story. And I get this is the point that it really kicks things up, you want to save it for the end, but dang, the first two parts of this movie were fairly generic and not much happening. If we dealt with the repercussions of this scene the whole time, it would have had a theme. But instead it's just kind of random little okay scare sequences that it kind of feels like we've seen before. But as I said, when we get to the third act, the drama does heat up, and we also get this character. There's this paranormal researcher that helped them in the debunking at the beginning, and they've been randomly chatting to ever since, Dr. West. No, not that Dr. West, a different Dr. West. Although I like to imagine they're related. But when they finally decide to go up against the Amityville house, we're gonna bring in all the computers and the special equipment, and things are gonna really heat up, and we're gonna get some action, we're gonna get some 3D effects. And overall, the last third of this movie is pretty fun. Again, I wish it went for more of the movie, because that's when the scares feel bigger and more original, and the characters have more to do, and the movie has more of an identity. So as it stands, Amityville 3D is okay. A fairly generic Amityville, a fairly generic haunted house. But hey, fun, goofy 3D effects. And as I said, it's not terrible, it's just not as good as the first two. But don't worry, we'll get much worse when we get to part 4. Oh gosh, I remember hating that movie, and I'm not really excited to do a rewatch, but I will for the series. But I'm curious what you guys thought of this one. Like I said, it's not great, but it might have cult classic potential. There might be some people that really like this partially for the goofy, cheesy 3D nature. Curious curious if that's you. Anyway though, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my Amityville playlist, where you can see my reviews for the past of the official series, hopefully get to more of those really soon, and a bunch of the unofficial ones. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Playlist here. Have a good day now.